to everybody for coming tonight. Thank you guys. So we're going to give you a little sort of taste, no pun intended, of what Taste Talks is actually like. How many of you were at the first Taste Talks? All right, good.
10 of us, that's great. Wow.
How many of you will
It
be
seemed like there were more people there.
How many of you will be at the second Taste Talks in September? Oh, come on.
There's some people that did not raise their hand.
Yeah, everyone should have raised their hands. Daniel is taking notes to who did not raise their hands. Okay, so anyway, I slightly over-prepared. We're going to do like a quickie version of what I prepared. So we're talking about the future of taste. So the guys from Taste Talks called and said, hey, we're going to do a little roundtable on the future of taste. So I did what any good writer would do. I Googled future of taste to see what came up. And the first thing that really popped in my head was good taste. So I Googled good taste, and I found a funny quote from the English art critic Jonathan Jones. And he said, there is nothing worse than good taste. Nothing more stultifying than an array of consumer choices paraded as a philosophy of life. I was like, ouch, that's pretty harsh. And I thought back to my days when music ruled my life. And everything I did, I'm sure most of you can relate. I chose my friends, I chose who I dated, I chose what I wore, how I spent my money. I never really considered my taste in music was just a consumer choice, but I guess in a literal way it was. I know you guys love music, I'm sure you can relate. It wasn't just what I chose to consume. For me, it was much deeper than just the shit that you buy. But what you put in your mind, what you put in your mouth, what you fill your time with, it's serious stuff. So consuming, consumption, eating, food, taste, it's all connected. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So to kick off, I thought we could just do a fun speed round and ask them some quick questions. So Mario, I'm curious, what do you have excellent taste in?
Footwear. I think taste is a personal thing. I mean, is this a one-word answer, or do you want me to go in a little bit?
Go for it. Go for it.
I think taste is a question of finding the things that give you pleasure that also you feel proud to represent and say, this gives me pleasure. So my taste in furniture, or my taste in clothes, or my lack thereof, or my taste in restaurants, or my taste in film is something that there's a pride in it when you say, this is what I like. It's something that you're happy to represent a piece of your being. So that's what your taste is. Whether it's good taste or bad taste, that's left up to the critics, and unfortunately it's often argued about only at the super cerebral level. Or Roland Barthes gives you an issue about what your taste is supposed to be, but in fact, it really comes down to what you're proud to represent as you.
What do you have terrible taste in?
Footwear.
Danny, what do you have excellent taste in? You have excellent taste in a wife. I know that.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually. I have an
Sorry.
amazing wife. I just had a baby, so yeah, that, I guess. And I guess shorts.
Terrible taste?
Shorts. So.
Mario, who's your favorite taste maker and why?
In the food space right now, I would say right now I like Jody Williams the best.
Oh, we love Jody.
I think she understands tradition and the way that it comes through. She makes delicious food simple, she makes simple food delicious, and she's everything perfect.
Shameless plug, we just launched Radio Cherry Bomb on Heritage Radio. Where's Erin from Heritage? I hope you all listen to Heritage Radio, it's great. And Jody was our guest last week, she's awesome. She has a great cookbook out too if you're in the market for a cookbook. Favorite taste maker?
There's this guy named Virgilio, and I think he's he's like one of the coolest, most humble chefs that you'll definitely get to a lot. His restaurant's called Central. It's amazing.
Cool. Whose taste buds do you trust?
My wife's, because
And I'm never unsure if my wife is right.
no, it's because it's crazy. Because in restaurants, your friends will come in and be like, yeah, everything was great, and hopefully they'll pull you aside and tell you if something was off, or you had salt, or it's too spicy, or whatever. But not all your friends do that because they care a lot about your feelings. But my wife will definitely come in and be like, that was really weird, or she'll let me know when things are not on point, which. In the restaurant, hopefully it's always perfect, but it's really difficult to master like Mario does.
I trust Brooks Headley and Mark Ladner.
That's a good answer. Okay, next we have a science question. How many taste buds does the tongue have?
3,000?
70.
Can I Google that?
If this was Price is Right, Danny would win.
Oh.
Approximately 7,000.
See, I have 70.
However, there's a category of human being known as the super taster.
Right.
And 15% of all men, 35% of all women are considered super tasters because they have extra taste buds.
Like
So,
a big number more or like 10 more?
not a super significant number more, but a certain, maybe.
See, both our wives are in that category.
But the question is like, Pete Wells a super taster?
Yeah, of course.
Is he here? Definitely.
Speaking of, you actually can tell by counting someone's taste buds. So if you see him, ask him or tackle him and count his taste buds. Speaking of taste buds, we lose more than half our taste receptors by the time we turn 20, which is a total bummer. Maybe that explains the picky eater phenomenon. Were you a picky eater as a child?
Do I look like a picky eater? No, I mean, we grew vegetables and we ate whole animals. Not because it was hip or because it was chic or because Alice Waters told us to. It was because it was inexpensive and it was the way that you lived if you lived in a rural American farming community. I grew up in eastern and western Washington state. So when there was a beef crisis during that preceded the OPEC embargo, beef went through the roof, so we bought whole cows, or half cows, and split them with the neighbor. So we always had sweetbreads and kidneys and all that stuff, and it wasn't an option not to enjoy it. Because our family cooked together. So we always, by the time you get to that dish, and you'll realize this, by the time you've made something with your child has way too much invested to be a picky eater, because they just make it. So we always try great food. I don't like shitty food.
Yeah.
Was I a picky eater? I don't think I was a picky eater, but I wasn't really exposed to a lot. I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, and it's pretty landlocked. Yeah, OKC. But a lot of my vegetables, we didn't have like the availability. And there's actually a lot of really cool stuff there now, but we ate a lot of like bought stuff out of boxes and like canned vegetables and stuff. My mom did have a garden though that she grew tomatoes and stuff in in Missouri, but I didn't actually even have Korean food until I was like 19 in San Francisco. So or sushi like until I was like 19. So once I discovered all that stuff, I like became super into it, but never was a picky eater.
All right, so we're going to jump to how taste is evolving in this country. I'm sure most of you are the same. The food that maybe Mario, the food that my parents ate is not the food that I eat today. And in my case, it has nothing to do with economics or geography and everything to do with preference, palate, and politics. And those three factors are helping turn the US from a ketchup country, what it was, to a sriracha nation. We talked about that a lot. Everybody in this room probably knows Kate Krader, the writer. Kate has yeah, she's not here. She's awesome. Kate has a very interesting article in the new issue of Food and Wine titled, "Are Big Flavors Destroying the American Palate?" And the subhead is, like many restaurant fanatics, Kate Krader has become addicted to ever spicier, funkier, and tangier flavors. What does this mean for roast chicken? That was their question, not mine. But the title of the story is pretty intriguing. So what do you think? Are big flavors destroying the American palate?
That's a tough question. I mean, the restaurants that I have been run are based on pretty big flavors, so hopefully we're not destroying the palate rotation. I don't think so. I mean, I think that food is really cool and there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to taste. I think that our exposure to that is a positive thing, as opposed to everyone eating like continental style, yeah.
I don't think anything could wreck food. I think that people will have their inspiration. They will taste really jacked out, spicy, salty, fermented, turned, hot, really spoiled stuff, and enjoy it for the experience. I think the broadening of the American palate is a direct result of the Americans becoming more sophisticated, more well-traveled, and more interested in food as a category, not just a food stuff. So now that Americans realize that there's pleasure in food and that there's incredible nutrition in food, there's also something that's about the theatricality of food. And going out and tasting food that's legitimately from Oaxaca or from the Mekong River Delta or hot dogs in Chicago. People appreciate and understand all these different flavors. I don't think it's killing our palate that sometimes you want something really jacked. Roast chicken will never die. Nor will udon and mere broth. I mean, nor will spaghetti pomodoro or pancakes. They will also continue to broaden their palates while they look to taste what they perceive to either be more authentic or more interesting intellectually for them to consume. So I don't think it's going to wreck anything. It may wreck Kate Crater's path, but she's got a pretty wide path of very interesting things on her table all the time. So she's lucky enough to think that way, but I don't think it'll wreck anything.
Have you had to evolve anything at either of your restaurants? Based
As
on
a
how
result of
people's-
Kate's story?
Based on how people's tastes are changing and evolving. Is Christina here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, great. Chelsea.
Ladies and gentlemen,
There she
this is
is.
Christina Toasty.
That couldn't be a better answer being hijacked by your mom. Mom, wrong guy.
Christine's mom is awesome. Okay. Everybody knows Christina. She is the brilliant mind and palate behind Milk Bar. Because I'm sure everyone's had crack pie or compost cookie or whatnot that you
Confetti
have.
cookie is my favorite. It's in
Which
season,
one?
the confetti cookie.
Oh,
It's in
confetti.
season right now.
Yes.
All right, so you missed a lot. You didn't miss that much.
You get it.
So we're going to fire some of the the speed round questions at Christina. So, okay.
No pressure.
No pressure.
He answered really well.
What do you have excellent taste in?
Movies.
Great, didn't expect that. What do you have terrible taste in?
Movies. It's like the one thing I know I have terrible taste in movies, but I also have fantastic taste in movies, and it's like the one thing that like, if I don't have bad taste in music, I know what bad music is. I know what a good movie, I know what a bad movie is, but sometimes I just can't stop from watching it.
Okay, you have to give an
That's
example.
like the worst.
I watched Ride Alone last night.
Wait, is that the comedic comedy?
Yes,
Kevin
it's
Hart,
got Ice-T.
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 You.
You.
Yeah.
And
Did you saw
Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart.
You see the comment of
Kevin Hart. It's an unbelievably great movie. I saw it like 2 weeks ago.
that was
Did
so
you see
that
the
I loved it.
Yes.
Has anyone seen
So
that movie?
clearly we all have fantastic.
Everyone in this room has seen that
It's
movie.
not a bad, so what's it
You
bad?
can rent it on.
One person's seen it.
Right, it's like 99 cents rented.
That's right.
Christina, who's your favorite taste maker and why?
Does it have to be?
No.
I think I'm a pretty big fan of these two as taste makers. I think because their taste supersedes just food, and it's about so much more than food. I think any good taste maker taste supersedes the specific craft that they're typically known for.
Let's see, whose taste buds do you trust?
Not very many. My own.
Your own.
Yeah.
Who do you go to when you're not sure about whether something's working, not working?
I would say like my right hand in the kitchen, and I think that's probably why she has the job that she does. But I also know that it's going to be honest, and she'll check my ego if I need my ego checked, and she'll tell me something is not good, even when I am very excited about it.
How many taste buds does the average human have?
Ooh, no clue.
Take a wild stab. It's a wild
Wait,
stab.
take a while. How many taste buds? 589.
Not close. Approximately.
Patty still wins.
It's approximately 7,000.
I guess 7,000.
I undershot.
Now, I've heard stories about what you would eat as a kid, and I could listen to you talk all day about what you ate as a child. But were you a picky eater as a child?
I was an infamously picky eater, and I think I used to be a lot more ashamed of being a picky eater, but then when I realized that being super picky and closed-minded about food for so long really, I think, drove my passion once I realized that food was really cool and really exciting. And when I finally opened my mind up about food, it was like I was experiencing this whole new world of food because I was so damn picky as a kid.
How old were you when you had this epiphany?
An example that I will give is when I was a freshman in college, so I was probably 18 or 19, I had my first slice of raw tomato on a sandwich. That picky.
Dun, dun, dun.
That picky. Like, I remember that. I remember the first time being like, having this sense of adventure threw a raw sliced tomato. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have that on my sandwich
I'm
today.
going there.
And I went there and I was like, this is the coolest flavor that I've ever experienced.
But in your defense, she might have had the same tomatoes I had growing up. They were pink tomatoes. Do you guys remember these? And they were in, they
I
came
think
in threes.
they still exist.
Yeah.
My hometown supermarket has the lone tomato option.
Yeah, they came in a pack of 3 and they were packed in like a little cellophane thing. They were not the tomatoes your parents were growing on their farm.
No, they definitely come in like a styrofoam tray.
Yeah, it tasted like nothing. What have you acquired the taste for over the years?
Spicy food. I was raised by, my family's from the Midwest, from Ohio, and they were both raised with parents, honestly, that were prisoners of war, and so they were raised on very bland palates because that's what that sort of generational experience is what dictated like the flavors that came out of their home kitchens, and they do not eat spicy food. And it took me a really long time to appreciate heat and to appreciate that it's more than just heat, that there's so much depth and flavor in something that is spicier than bland, which again is like a whole other world of flavor.
Has your mom had Dan?
My mom loves Dan.
Like this.
If I told her that she was here tonight, she would be in the back hooting and hollering.
So we were talking a little bit about how people's tastes have evolved over the years, and Kate Crater wrote a really interesting article about has, everyone's interest in spicy and exotic food ruined the American palate, and the consensus is no, it hasn't. And we're talking about how guest tastes have evolved though, and I don't want to bring up the G word, gluten, but I think more than anybody,
Live in a world.
live in a world of gluten. I was curious I have some restaurants in Brooklyn, and I'm shocked at the number of people who come in and tell us they're gluten-free, they're trying not to eat any gluten, their babies are gluten-free, like the whole family's gluten-free. How, when you have a bakery where everything's based on flour, do you handle that?
Well, do you have gluten-free stuff?
We do. We have 2 different cookies that are gluten-free and dairy-free. I have no allergies. I was raised in a family that where no one has allergies, and so this whole world of allergies, it was always really strange to me. When we first opened Milk Bar, I had no idea that one of my biggest challenges was going to be the dietary needs. I mean, I've worked in restaurants, so you get like the pescatarian, the no shellfish or what have you, but I had no clue that we would have to field so many requests. I sort of approached that challenge. I think that you can approach any challenge with a good attitude or a bad attitude. I choose to approach that challenge with a good attitude because I think it challenges me in terms of how I'm going to create and how I'm going to innovate. Cookies that we made with our friend Carly Kloster called Carly's Cookies, and one of her big missions was, I want to make a cookie that's really good for you and that also gives back. And so we have like an oatmeal chocolate chip kind of take on a cookie, and then we have a super rich, dense chocolatey cookie. And they're almond flour based, and one of them is bound together with like coconut puree and pineapple juice. The other one is bound together with some olive oil and some agave syrup, and it's a really cool challenge. And they're like surprisingly really delicious, and I eat them sometimes more than the regular cookies, but also probably because in my head I'm like, it's like eating a power bar in a cookie.
Mario, I'd be afraid to walk into one of your restaurants and ask for gluten-free pasta.
We have it in all of our restaurants. Mark Ladner is so crazy about this that every pasta dish at Del Costo is available gluten-free or regular. And if you call us in advance and tell us, when you come in, when you check in, you don't even have to make a deal out of it at the table. We will just know that you're gluten-free, and we will bring you gluten-free pasta so that you don't have to make a big stink about it in front of your guests or your friends.
And Danny, when
That's Mark
people-
Ladner, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
When people come in and say to you, oh, I don't eat spicy food, what would you do?
I've been through the phase of when I was younger, like, as a chefs for some reason get stuck on having things their way. So
For good reason.
yeah, no, but I mean, like, I used to be like, oh, they can't order the burger unless it's rare or medium rare. And that was just, I think now it's like I not only, like I have to, but I want to give people what they want because they're coming to your restaurant, to eat, and you need them, and so it's like, just being able to provide something, and plus it's very difficult to say no to New Yorkers. So in New York, it's like, you have to say yes, you have to or at least make it on as a challenge, like you see what I'm saying. So yeah, we make it less spicy or not spicy. I mean, there's certain dishes that, like the chicken wings, which just have to not have any of the some Sichuan spices on it, but we will turn it down for sure.
Wasn't sure if you wanted to add something to that.
The whole world has evolved a lot, and in our field, in the last 15 years, as the sophistication of the customer has gone up, so has the sophistication of the artistry in the kitchen. And realizing the significant symbiosis of the customer-restaurant relationship is a little bit of give and take. It's good to be able to go somewhere, but you also have to draw lines that you can't let people come in and say, I want that meat and that sauce and that veg. Just like that, it would seem silly to have worked all that hard, all that day, to make the menu that we present and have people think that they can just choose whatever they want. So within certain limitations, we definitely want to do what they want to do, but we would not be artists if we did exactly what they said. Like, we still have to live our art way a little bit.
So since the subject is the future of taste, you can't talk about taste, obviously, without talking about food. So the future of food, what would you like to see from the future of food?
I think for me, just an increasing open-mindedness. I think that there's always going to be trends and fads in foods and flavors and ingredients. But I think I try and I try within my team to really encourage just an open-mindedness. That there's no like snubbing food to the good or to the bad or the highbrow or the lowbrow, which is obviously part of the realm that we live in Miltar. But I think just food in general, where it's like, hey man, just taste it and don't have it be like. I think in terms of food, is there such thing as good taste and bad taste? I think that what you think tastes good, like own it. It's not about it being like if you're a fancy person, you have to love fancy food. I think that you should have an open mind and embrace what you think tastes good, because no one else should be telling you what you think tastes good. And I think that requires an open-mindedness. And I think more than anything, in terms of the future of food, that's what we need to continue to develop the food world more than anything else.
That's a really good answer.
Sometimes if you're just sitting with people and you feel smarter just being next to them, don't you?
I mean, I would second that for sure, especially, as a cook, you're just learning all the time. And I think the way things have evolved, I mean, since I became interested in cooking, is insane. Like, how we were eating like 15 years ago to like now, I mean, like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it's pretty insane. So I think that, I mean, I think that, yeah, like, open-mindedness is like really, really important, because we're still learning as cooks. It's the one job that you can have that you learn, you'll never know anything. It's like playing guitar, you'll never be like the best. There's always someone that's gonna be like theoretically better than you, or just find something else about it that's intriguing to them and present it to people. So, I think that, yeah, sorry.
Unless you're the Edge or Eric Clapton, right?
Or Jack.
Or Jack.
There's so many. Yeah.
We're going to have Mario answer, and then we'll open it up to some questions from the audience.
I think the future of food is as much in the hands of the customers as it is in the cooks, as it is in the farmers and purveyors. I think big agriculture has done what we told them to do, which is to develop a very inexpensive protein source at almost any, and not the loss of a lot of things other than flavor and perhaps nutrition. But now what it really comes for the customer and the chef to do is demand from the farmers what the farmers want to give us. I think the relationship between the three is going to be the most important thing, and as nutrition becomes more significant, as we really face possibly in our lifetimes the need to actually consume bugs as a sustainable protein, maybe not in America, but in the world that will be a big part and will eventually get to us. But I think the farming has to become more transparent. I think we need to evaluate the GMO crisis and see if it in fact is a crisis. And I think that the politics of food and its production is going to become a bigger piece of the information that we consume on a regular basis. And just know that you're in charge of your decision-making process, and make sure you do it that way. That will empower both the farm, the cook, and the consumer to really understand their position in that triumvirate relationship.
Great. Do we have any questions from the audience? Does anybody want to ask?
I'm our Vanna White for the evening.
Thank you. Hi guys, I'm Sarah Zorn. I'm the food editor of Northside Media. Yay, Northside! My question is, and as a member of the media, I am very, very culpable of this, but there is a lot of excitement about restaurants who are new, and a lot of buzz around restaurants who are new and very much in their infancy. So as all of you being owners of very established restaurants, how do you keep the buzz going and the interest up when there's not necessarily a a story to tell besides the fact that you are making great food day after day. So how do you stay relevant?
I think that's probably the hardest. I think you probably hit the nail on the head in terms of the hardest part of being of being in charge of something that's been around at least past its first year or two, because there definitely is that that slowdown of like press and attention. I think that at least in terms of what I try to do, what I try to do at Milk Bar is just to continue to encourage innovation and curiosity, and to just be honest about where we take that. I think trying to put some sort of pressure or stress on staying relevant in someone else's terms is not how I created Milk Bar, and it's not what has caused Milk Bar to evolve and continue. So I honestly just try and keep my head down and try and do what we do and get really excited about it within the walls of our kitchen, and try not to make it too motivated on any other level, because it's sort of like a little bit of a hippie mentality, but I think that those other things come as long as you continue to do that with, you know, within yourself and within your own mind, rather than being motivated to get press or to stay relevant in someone else's eyes. I think for me, it's not worth it if we're not relevant in our own eyes. But I realize that that's probably a little a little idealistic, but that's how I live, and that's how I go to sleep at night.
I don't know how to say it. I mean, I was gonna say short, wear shorts, because that's I don't know. I have no. I don't know. I mean, staying relevant is one of those things that, you know, like, I mean, I hate to keep bouncing off what you're saying, but it's all like so spot on that, like, you know, I think you, as a cook, you challenge yourself, and then and everyone else. Hopefully, it's a trickle down from there. But you know, I think you can't think of it like trying to stay relevant in New York food scene, because that's like insane. Like, just eating out here is a job. Like, I don't even know. I mean, it's, people always ask me, like, where's the greatest food restaurant? Like, I have no idea. I work all the time. But it's cool because it's not really difficult to stay. As a cook, it's very easy to go out and you have access points in New York to like the best chefs in the world. The best, I mean, it's the best food in the world. And so you're able to go to like, you know, this place or that place, and then pull from that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like a really, really good question. I'm just gonna say this answered it spot on.
There's your pop-up at Frankie's though, which is definitely, it's got the media excited.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's something to creating a story and getting your name out there by reinventing in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going back to making sure you're challenging yourself. Like the mission trains, we haven't had them for like 6 months, and you know, we really miss making that food, and we really miss. We need to like, you know, get the ball rolling so we can be open at a new space. So yeah, but I mean, I think that was really a challenge for ourselves, and we were just really wanting to get some motivation.
It's definitely hard. I mean, I have seersucker in Carroll Gardens, and it's going to be 4 years old in June, and that's a really weird age for a restaurant to be, because no one cares about a 4-year-old restaurant. So you have to.
Sure they do.
Well, you know,
They love it.
The press wants, you know, who's cooking with ranch this week, who's making roast chicken for 2 this week, who's doing all those things. And, you know, it's hard. You have to, I think back to what Christina said, you just have to make a decision if you're going to keep your head down and do what's true to you, or you play the press game and you hire a PR person and, you know, you do that part of it. And it's definitely hard in a city like New York. I often wonder, is it easier, I've been to your restaurant outside the city. I often wonder, is it easier outside New York to do it? Can you just do what you do and not have to worry about press and all those things?
Infinite number of blogs constantly needing new content is already enough to have to generate its own stuff. You just have to be able to play their game. When they call you and ask you, what are you doing with Swiss chard stems? You would never say nothing. You would invent something right then and there. And you answer them with a... But I think Babo's 16 years old. It maintains an interest because we constantly work on the deliciousness of the food. We constantly work on the precision and clarity and comfortability of the service. And although it's not necessarily newsworthy, that it continues to make people really, really happy, creates its own story. And maybe it's not going to be in a blog or in the newspaper, but it's got its own secondary kind of Twittersphere and Facebooky world where PR is happening, but no one is actually writing content. It's just constantly in the buzz, and we all play a little bit in the social media world, and that just kind of keeps people thinking about it. The beauty of New York is there's so many great restaurants. When you finally go back to that place, like the original Momofuku, you go back to that, even though it moved, you go back and you eat those dishes, like, Jesus Christ, that's why I came in the first time. I remember how good this was. And maybe they're not in the buzz of that specific restaurant, but Chang and Josie are. But like, those places are still great, so it's just, everyone just needs to remember to go back to them, I think. And that's kind of the press's conundrum right now, because they're looking for the scoop or the new news. So you just want to be in the game.
I think once you keep doing it long enough, then you become an institution like Babo, or for me, even like Del Posto, where it's just like, I know when I go there. I go there, you know, like every 2 or 3 months when I'm going to like blow it out, to like have my mind like just melted with great ideas and great food. And if I'm slumming it, I want to go sit at the bar. But if I want to be super fancy, maybe I'll go sit in the dining room. But I think it's like, you just keep doing it so long that you do become, you hold a place in people's like rotation of great restaurants, like where you go when you come from out of town, or your favorite recommendation when someone's looking for a great Italian food or what have you. But I think there is definitely that, like, when you're brand new and people are super excited about you, and then how you keep with it until you become an institution where you do fall into people's food routines. I had a dining out or food routine, and I think that it's probably easier on some level to have a restaurant outside of New York City, but I also think it's easier to have a restaurant in New York City because people do dine out. They dine out with far more frequency and interest and just enthusiasm, whether it's a brand new restaurant or not. So I think more than anything, it's like, get excited about new restaurants, but also don't underestimate the restaurants that have been around and that are trying true. They're trying true in this season.
Patina. We're looking for patina now.
Not on the food though. Another question?
What was your last failure? After failure, where it's like, this really sucked.
I'll go first. I can begin.
It's every day I wake up, I take a look at it. What the fuck are you doing now? Abject failure is only if you give up, and I don't give up. So if something didn't work, we either come back at it and go at it, or fundamentally the idea, there's a good idea behind, hopefully there's a good idea behind most of the ideas that we have. Certainly in the restaurant food, we're not inventing anything. We are merely reinterpreting 2,000 years of Italian cultural history. We're looking at it from a different geographical specific, but it's not like we're ever going to do something that is so, that it could fail, it couldn't fail. So it may not be to everyone's liking that day, and then we tweak it a little bit, but I don't look at, the only failure I would say that ever happened is if I gave up on what I thought was a good idea. That would be a failure.
Yeah.
You?
I like what you said. It's really difficult sitting between the two of these guys because it's like so good. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that you have to challenge yourself to the point of failure, but you just can't give up. And I don't really know. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that I've failed at and learned from. I think that's a really amazing thing about what we do, and you know, you're learning. Like, we're on the fly all the time. Like, Mission Cantina is 6 months old, and it's insane the long sufferingness that like the staff has when you're just learning how to open your second restaurant, a restaurant in New York City. That we have a lot of staff that are still there from the beginning, so it's like, you know, they haven't given up. So you know, not that Cantina's good, but yeah, I don't know. But then, you know, I guess if an employee leaves, like, that's something really crazy that I've experienced, which the Mission Chinese in San Francisco, like, it's been the same coast for like the last 3 years. It's insane. But in New York, yeah, there's so many hot restaurants and like places to work that people are like, oh, I'm going to work at like this place or that place. And so I think that's where I feel like maybe I failed to cook, because they're not willing to stick around for like 2 years. But in New York, it's really difficult to keep guys. I mean, the lady that makes gelato at Oto's been there for
That's day one.
That's insane. So yeah, it's insane.
But is failure even a big deal anymore?
I think failure is a big deal for us, not with a negative connotation. I sort of look at it like, I think that from an outsider's perspective, you probably judge people in our industry by their successes, but I think just to sort of mimic what Mario says, I would say that we judge ourselves by our failures and how we recover, or how we learn, or how we sort of prevail from there, because we don't just go into the kitchen and make something taste awesome. It takes a really long time, and there's a lot of failures, and there's a lot of, I think if you don't take every good idea and just like storm it and work it out, then it's just a good idea, and every good idea is a great idea. There's a failure within every good idea before it actually comes to fruition as a success. So I think for every success, there are far more failures, exponentially more failures, and I think you could almost go so far as to say that every success is a success only because it was followed up with certain perseverance after several failures before that. So that's, I sort of, not in a negative way, do I measure us by failure, but I think from an outsider's perspective, you measure us by our successes, but really, like, we are nothing without knowing how to recover, knowing how to take the chance in failing and jumping and taking that risk, and then how we recover from it to turn it into a success.
So we'll take one more question.
Hi, I'm a foodie and amateur mixologist, and it seems like sometimes some of like the unusual things that you find are usually ingredients that you have on hand, or things that happen by accident. And I'm curious, for everyone, what are some of the most unusual or surprising flavor combinations that you've come across? Whether it's the beginning of your careers or end of your careers, or not, hope not end, but beginning or middle. But just curious, what are some of the unusual things that you
A half hour ago, I was at a place called Maison Premier, and they brought me an after-dinner beverage, which was Cynar, salted, and mixed with a little sweet vermouth. And the salt, I'm getting goosebumps, it changed, like I'm dumbfounded by this mindfuck of brilliance. Like there was a Cynar, which is an Amaro, the artichoke one, that has never been that pleasant to me, quite honestly. But they put salt in it. They have a saline solution in the bar. They put a couple drops in it. They shook it, and the viscosity is something I'm not familiar with. So there's something brand new right there that I've never even thought about. But you can be sure that in the next couple of weeks, all of our bartenders are going to be working with the saline solution to see what it does, particularly to these Amaros, because it was in another animal. It was something I didn't even recognize it. It was like that kind of shit happens to us all the time. It's just that to be able to be open to find something new like that and somehow bring it into your world is where the beauty of working in New York City is. There are so many smart people thinking so far outside of the box. You just have to kind of walk down the street and bump into people, and you'll hear something interesting that you might be able to use as a trick.
Mario's not talking about contact lens solution though, so do not.
I'm not sure that it's different. I think it's only salt and water. I think you might be able to buy it right there. Buy it at the Bausch & Lomb store and start mixing it in with your drinks.
It's gonna be hot.
Right.
What's the next big thing?
Sorry, I have to tell you.
Interesting taste combination.
There's this ice cream shop that just opened. There's one in Brooklyn that's called Oddfellows. So, I was there today with my wife, and I had, these aren't on, I don't know, I thought it was very inspiring, because you were talking about how inspiring that is. But he has like a chorizo caramel ice cream. It's pretty amazing. It's just, just the renderings from cooked chorizo. They mix it into a caramel and swirls into like vanilla. I think it's vanilla ice cream,
It's yellow.
Yeah, it's like got like an orangish, yellowish swirl. So that was amazing. The burnt marshmallow ice cream was insane because it tasted like you're in a campfire and you burn a marshmallow. But then it also has like pieces of just regular marshmallow inside. So I don't know. Those aren't really what you have in your kitchen cabinets, but those really were pretty amazing things.
Christina, last word.
One of my favorite flavor pairings that was a big surprise to me, though, I know it's not that new, and I think that's also sort of maybe the point too of this discussion, where it's like, what's exciting and interesting to you as a flavor combination? There's no like right or wrong answer. Was actually a dessert at El Posto by Brooks, and it was eggplant and this just super dark bitter chocolate. And it makes so much sense because eggplant, like when you, at least the way my mind works, when I like two flavors that come together that I would personally never think of putting together, when they work, my mind just starts like off in the sprint of like, why do these work? How can I trace it back so that I can make some sort of sense to it? My favorite two flavors that I have been pairing together that I'm excited about are blueberries and miso, or like a burnt miso.
Is that?
It used to be a soft serve flavor, and I thought it was either gonna like taste gross like vomit or taste really good, and it tasted really good, but in a way, it makes you sort of like swim around in your own head and go, okay, I can maybe see why those two things taste good together, what else would taste good with X or Y or Z, and I think that's the most fun part of our job, is getting to play around with those flavors and be inspired by them.
Very cool, so thank you for your questions.
Yeah, please, big round of applause. Christina Tosi, Danny Bowen, Mario Conley, Terry Diamond. Please join us for Taste Talk September 13th and 14th. Have a wonderful dinner and a wonderful night.